Very good morning to you, and thank you for your warm welcome here at Harrison. My first visit to Harrison. Jericho is believed to be the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world at about 12,000 years. It's on the west side of the Jordan River, just a few miles from the lowest place on earth, Dead Sea. And the road from north to south along the river was an ancient trade route, even in Jesus' day. And Jericho sits near the junction of that main road and the road that leads up into the central highlands to Jerusalem. So it was an important stopping place for people going up to Jerusalem to rest and replenish before making the strenuous uphill journey. And Jericho is where the Israelites, led by Joshua, crossed over into the Promised Land after wandering for 40 years in the wilderness. Jericho was ancient even by then. And the Jordan River, near Jericho, is where John the Baptist baptized. So people could then symbolically re-enter the Promised Land as their ancestors had done. Well, the gospel episode today takes place just a few days before Jesus enters Jerusalem for the last time. And the disciples and Jesus they've made their way from Galilee in the north, taking that ancient trade route along the Jordan River south toward Jerusalem, and they stop at the ancient city of Jericho. And since it's quite a climb up there, we can imagine them resting up a bit for the trip and replenishing. On the way out of town, he stops for one more miracle, the healing of Bartimaeus. I think it's the last of the miracles in the Gospel of Mark. The miracles of Jesus would have been amazing to see, of course, but amazing as they must have been, they point to something else. The Gospel of John calls the miracles of Jesus signs, and signs point beyond themselves to something else, somewhere else. These aren't just any old signs. The miracles of Jesus actually point in two directions at once, forward and backward. Let's look backward first. The miracles or signs of Jesus point to what we might call the prior miracle, God's first miracle. A miracle is a violation of the natural order. The usual laws of nature are somehow bypassed or overcome. But for there to be a violation of the natural order, there has to be natural order. And that is the prior miracle. Okay? For laws of nature to be violated, there have to be laws of nature. So nature itself and the laws that govern it, the order that governs it, are God's prior miracle. God said, "Let there be," and there was. As one of the Psalms puts it, by the word of the Lord were the heavens made, by the breath of his mouth, all the heavenly hosts. The Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and through him all things came to be. That anything came to be at all, that anything exists at all, that there is something and not nothing, that's the first miracle. And that what does exist is the way it is all the more amazing. The natural order itself is a miracle. There was nothing, and then there was something. That's a miracle. And here we are talking about it. And we're all witnesses to this prior miracle. For Bartimaeus to be healed, there had to be a world in which Bartimaeus could be healed. And we're witnesses to the wonders of the cosmos, in which Jesus healed Bartimaeus. Witnesses to the wonders of the vast, expansive space of time. Our telescopes remind us that what we can see with the naked eye is a very small fraction of what's actually out there. You've probably seen those amazing pictures taken from the Hubble telescope, the space telescope that's in orbit around the Earth. And it's as amazing as that telescope is, the Hubble, it's being replaced by a much more powerful instrument, James Webb Space Telescope, and it will be able to see out into space 13 billion light years away. That is, you'll be able to see the distance light travels in 13 billion years. So it'll essentially be looking back in time, 13 billion years, almost as far back as the Big Bang. And astrophysicists estimate there's somewhere between 200 billion and 2 trillion galaxies in the universe, and galaxies each have in them between 100 and 400 billion stars. So we're talking about billions of trillions of stars, a lot of zeros, give or take a few trillion. As the Bible says, by the word of the Lord were the heavens made, by the breath of his mouth, all the heavenly hosts. And of course, this word of the Lord, this word of creation, created the natural order that we live with here on this earth, the geological forces that created the great Jordan Rift Valley and that lowest place on earth, the Dead Sea, that's about 20 miles from Jericho, and the spectacular escarpment behind Jericho that separates the Jordan River Valley from the Judean desert. And perhaps most amazing of all God's creation, millions of species of living things, of which we're one among many in a complex web of interrelationship we call our ecosystem, the biosphere. We're pretty special, actually, as we're by a long shot the most complex, most evolved species, with all kinds of incredible attributes and skills. One of those being eyes that can see. For Bartimaeus to be healed, there had first to be eyes that could see, and brains to make sense out of what the eyes were taking in, and nervous system to convey the signals of information from eyeballs to brain. And all of that, just one part of a human body that could cry out for the Son of David to have mercy on it, from a body that could throw off his cloak and sprint up and walk over to Jesus. The human being is the most complex system, actually the most complex system of systems, interrelated systems in the known universe, as far as we know. Yes, so far. The natural order, laws of nature, existence itself, time and space on an unimaginably vast scale, God's prior miracle. The miracle that has made all other miracles even possible. Well, that's looking backward. Healing miracles of Jesus are also signs pointing forward to that which lies ahead. The life of eternity. Healing of eternity, wholeness of eternity. This is the miracle we shall see, but do not yet see. Bartimaeus was given his sight, but as Paul said, now we see through a glass darkly, in a mirror dimly, enigmatically. Then he says, we shall see face to face. Then we shall see in the fullest, most complete way possible. healed of our mortal blindness, our limitations of sight. We have very little idea what this complete healing, this fuller vision will be like, nor the life we shall live in that greater light. We can only begin to imagine, but we can begin to imagine. And there's another miracle. We human beings can imagine. Imagine that. So the Son of David, Jesus Christ, the one through whom all things came to be, he called to Bartimaeus, and Bartimaeus sprang up. He calls us to spring up to amazement, spring up to amazement, wonder at the world he has created and placed us in. Yes, our lives are a struggle. Life has been very difficult for many of us lately, most of us, maybe all of us, one way or another. And it seems like every week brings news of some new humanitarian disaster somewhere, globe, or some new outrage of malfeasance. Good to face the truth, good to be clear-eyed about the suffering of the world, good to be clear-eyed about the injustices and evil that are all too real. But from time to time, at least, it's good to try to open our eyes to that big picture, the really big picture, and be reminded of the wonder and miracle of our own existence, and the wonder and miracle of the gifts each one of us has for making the world a better place. Miracle in the gospel is about the healing of a man's sight. We may not be blind in the usual sense of the word, but we can all do with clearer, more complete vision. And that fuller vision will give us a renewed sense of amazement and the miracle of our own existence, humble as it may be, and even more, a renewed sense of the miracle of yet new possibility. New possibility. This is the vision we need to meet the challenges of our own time.